Hello, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of our amazing masterclass called Cycle Breakers. Come on in. We're letting everybody just join a little bit here. Welcome. I wanted to say hello to Facebook. I'm live streaming on Facebook as well. And of course, this is being recorded and supplied to as many people that want to watch it on replay. Hi, Stephanie. Hi, Terry. Welcome, welcome. Excited to have you guys here. Thank you, thank you. And yeah, if you are new to the masterclass, feel free to share where you're dialing in from. And we're going to dive in here in just a moment. We'll do a quick recap of what we covered yesterday, and then we've got a couple more pieces of the formula called the pattern shift formula to explore today as well. So yes, hello, hello. Fantastic. All right. For anyone new to me watching this recording or this replay or this live for the first time, I'm Jena Rodriguez, and I am your consciousness alchemist and emotional scientist. And yesterday we had our first session of the masterclass, so you can certainly go back and watch the recording of that, the replay. You can always RSVP to be in my insider community, where we give a little more of the benefits and some extras in preparation for the class and things like that by going to masterclass.bravemasters.com. So you can always jump in there as well. And the other thing I wanted to remind everyone is ultimately to get some of the background knowledge and wisdom about your egoic self. If you haven't already, make sure to take advantage of the free Egoic Archetype quiz. And you can get that at quiz.bravemasters.com. So very, very simple. And so a couple other things, to remind everyone where we're going today. So this is our final day of this masterclass. And yesterday we covered 2 parts of the formula. And the first part was awareness. Right? There's 5 A's. I made it simple. So we covered awareness, and that was really about I spy the pattern. I spy the egoic, reactions, right? That's kind of the telltale all that things are starting to be out of alignment with the patterns that we are repeating in our lives, whether it's in relationship, in money, in business and career, wherever it exists. We have to first become aware of it, because I'll tell you, a lot of them are on autopilot because they've been installed since we were children, and you just don't even realize the dots are connecting as to what that pattern might be for you, right? So so that was step number 1, and then step number 2 is acknowledge. And why this is important is to actually understand the pattern, like almost like ask it questions, get curious about the pattern, and say, what do you want to tell me? Why are you here? What are you protecting me from? What are you trying to accomplish? Right? Why is this happening for me? Right? Why is the pattern in place? And I love that we had this conversation about a very common pattern. It's pretty prevalent in a lot of us, is I don't matter. And I also, the other one is, I believe yesterday it was, I'm not good enough, right? And that's a common pattern. It's a common belief loop, as I call it. And it gets stuck in this loop, and then it starts to have a lot of evidence and build a lot of momentum. And yet what we realize is that it plays in so many different areas of our life, and yet it's not the purpose of the pattern is more about protecting us from something that we don't want to experience, right? So we start to acknowledge the pattern for why it's present for us. So step 1, awareness. Step 2, acknowledge. And then today we're going to dive into the 3 additional steps to the formula. And so also a reminder before we jump into all of that, is to make sure to, have your notes ready, take notes, recognize the insights, and make sure that you're assimilating the information that you receive. I always say that knowledge is insufficient for transformation, right? We are bombarded with knowledge. We're bombarded with information. Our brain loves to process information. And yet, if we don't embody the information, if we don't take it in and assimilate it and alchemize it for ourselves, right? How does this apply to me? And how do I use it or utilize it in going forward in my life? Right? Then all it is we've done another class and yay for me, right? And then you move on and there's not so much change or transformation that occurs, right? So I highly recommend that you take notes from a place of like, what am I actually hearing? And how does this apply to me? And how is this going to, shift me going forward? And the other couple notes before, and you can remind me if I forget, because I get on a roll and then I tend to forget a few things at the end. I do have a survey that pops up at the end, and it's just an opportunity, 2 questions, and I would just love your feedback about what you are taking away from this experience and what your thoughts are. So that'll be at the end. And again, today I'll also share a few minutes at the end about how you can continue diving deeper in some of the containers I've got created that if you wish, if you feel connected and it feels like an alignment, then we can continue to work together in some capacity. So, all right, let's dive in, everyone. So please put a 1 in the chat if you are ready to learn the 3 additional steps of this process and this formula. And thank you, Stephanie. I'm so glad you're here. And so we're going to get started. All right. So the third step, because this one's really powerful, right? Because it's all about activation. That's step 3, is it's time to activate what we are learning around the patterns that we are acknowledging and becoming aware of. And how we activate is by taking radical ownership, right? So this activation step is about taking radical ownership of the fact that you created it. And we talked about this yesterday. So if you haven't seen yesterday's episode, please take a listen, because it really sets the foundation. And ultimately, if we don't take ownership of the fact that we created it, where are we giving our power? Where are we sending that power to, right? Like, we're giving it away. We're becoming the victim of circumstance and going, I can't change this. I can't make it different. I'm the victim of it, right? I have no control. And that is literally the opposite of truth, is that when we take ownership, and I love the word ownership instead of responsibility, only because responsibility has sometimes a blame connotation. And then then our ego gets to go playground with it, right? We get to go do gymnastics with that one, right? So ownership is just an opportunity to go, oh, how about that? My creative power, my infinite intelligence, my consciousness created the pattern. I plugged it in. I put it in place. I said it was said it was so. And the beautiful thing about that is that if you made it up, you can also recreate it and unplug it from your power grid, as I call it, right? So activation is taking radical ownership, knowing the power of your creative process and your creative power that you already have, and then noticing how much evidence you have created to keep it installed, right? So all of that is the activation of when we take ownership. Now we can get into the position to actually disrupt the pattern, which is what we want to do here. We want to break the cycles, whether this is generational, and you have it's come in full force from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime, grandparent to child, etc. And what if your children are picking up your patterns and then installing their own? Keep in mind, it's not to blame us, like us mom guilt, right? No. We don't get to guilt ourselves. That's an ego trick, right? But it is to recognize that if we're going to be cycle breakers and be the example for not only ourselves and certainly our parents or what have you, but wow, look at the generations ahead of us, our children, their children, etc., that then will show up differently, right? And that's what I'm excited about. When we become cycle breakers, we are changing the trajectory of the future, right? The future generations, our future, our present, etc. So, so activation is extremely important. And so the question for you to ask yourself is, where am I not taking ownership? Where am I still considering this problem that continues to show up in my life, or this pattern that is always there, and we're giving away our power? We're saying, I don't know how, I can't change it, right? Like there's something inside of you. I call it ego. We're always coming from, remember, recap from yesterday, we're always coming through a lens of ego or essence, one or the other. And so if we're coming through ego, then it's very limitation based. It's I can't, I shoulds, I won't, I don't know how, right? Confusion, etc. So so noticing where you're coming from is the first step, right? And then you can activate by taking ownership and stepping back and go, I made it all up. So if you, I know there's a couple of you playing with me here live, and I'm curious if you can identify a pattern that you have not yet taken ownership of. And it can be something, and you can kind of identify, it's like, what keeps happening that I don't like? Like I still keep having this problem or this block or this situation, and I haven't quite taken ownership of it, therefore it's still occurring. Anyone? Can anyone play with me here?
Give me a prompt, Jenna. I know you know mine.
Yes, we work intimately together. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna add you here. Can you? Okay, there we go. Thank you. All right, so tell me about your control pattern, because I already know you.
My control pattern. Oh, yes.
What part of your control pattern do you feel like maybe, just maybe, I haven't taken full ownership of?
Don't always recognize when I'm in that control place.
Yes.
Until I recently I've noticed, oh yeah, I've gone to, oh, I'm tidying up, or I'm becoming obsessive and I'm straightening pictures. That's my need to
A little
control.
OCD.
Yeah. When the OCD kicks in, the
Yeah.
undiagnosed OCD kicks in. Yeah, that's when I realize, oh, what's going on here? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm getting there, but I wouldn't say that I've taken radical ownership yet, because I'm only just really getting to know it.
Yeah, becoming aware of it, right? The first step, aware.
Yeah.
Acknowledge. So let's acknowledge it, right? So it's kind of like, thank you, pattern, for being here. Thank you, control. Thank you, OCD.
Yes.
Thank you,
I used to
picture
vacuum.
removing.
I used to go vacuuming.
Yes. Right. I so appreciate you. And so let's acknowledge it for a moment and identify, why might it be there still? Why might it still be there and still surfacing?
Because when I feel anything is chaotic around me,
Okay.
and again, I know I've created it, but or continue to create it. When things feel chaotic for me, I go to, all right, I've got to create structure. I've got to plan things. I've got to plan my way out of this. And certainly don't go to the feelings, as you know very well. And so so that's what I do.
Yeah. So what give me an example of what chaos actually looks like for you.
Chaos can look like, oh gosh, like lots of WhatsApp messages from my mother, or messages from my daughter, when they're all like, wanting to engage me in their drama. And then it gets very chaotic. So I've got a lot better at just stepping back and basically giving them back the radical ownership. But I've noticed that I can go to that place, especially with my daughter, of, oh, well, I'll just fix it.
Yes. So, which is the next, kind of, the deflection response, right? Is to fix it.
Yeah.
So when you experience that chaos, right?
Yes.
We're calling it the chaos or drama or what have you.
Right. Yeah.
Where do you believe that chaos actually exists?
Where do I believe it exists? In my head, and that's the only place. It's not really there. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would offer you another level,
Uh-huh.
another perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Is it's actually being experienced in your body
Right. Yes. Okay.
versus
Mm-hmm.
your head. So the body feels the sensation. So there's something that is getting activated in your body. There's a pain center or a, ooh, I don't like this feeling. And then your mind starts to like create the stories, create the, like chaos of circumstance called they're texting me their drama. They're texting me their, and we're even making up the conversation called their drama.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we like to notice how we as humans like to label things. We like to title things. We like to call things certain things, et cetera. But the actual text itself or the communication or whatever is actually neutral. Like it has no meaning.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Until we put a meaning on it. And notice how drama, chaos, whatever becomes it's almost like a perpetuating fuel for the feeling that you actually had first. So you had the feeling first. It's very subtle. It's very, I always talk about the Richter scale. This, it's like very sensitive. And then the mind starts to take over. And then the behavior, the pattern behavior, right, is then let's go get control. Let me go like clean the house or vacuum the walls. Like, whatever. And so, and then the interesting part of this is in order to continue to create the pattern of I'm out of control or I have no control. And I would look a little deeper as to, back to the acknowledgement. It's like, why are you here? Why do I have a pattern installed, which is usually our patterns are based in a physical experience, right? There's something physically we're experiencing that we do not want to experience. We don't want to experience I'm not good enough. We don't want to experience I'm out of control, but I want to go deeper. Like there's something I think underneath I don't have control. Potentially. So can you hear anything around that?
Yes. And then I go to, I must be feeling helpless. But then the other side of me is going, but I'm not helpless. I'm safe, because we've talked a lot about that. It's like, I'm actually safe. And I questioned myself the other day. I don't remember exactly what it was. And I remembered, I'm actually safe. This is not blah, blah, blah. This is not that situation. This is now, and I am safe.
Yeah. Which is obviously the work, right? We're working together on how do I get aware quickly and do a reframe of some sort, right?
Yeah.
So I think the telltale sign for any of us is we become, obviously, especially if we are on this personal development journey and this emotional, intelligence journey, like we're constantly working on ourselves, is that we get pretty smart about who our behaviors, right? And we can talk ourselves out of it pretty quickly. And yet notice how the texts still come.
Strange, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
They're still a domino. So yesterday I know you weren't present yesterday on the live. So the domino analogy, right? You plug it in, you plug in the pattern, and it's like one domino gets pushed, and then the rest of our life is evidence and momentum of the dominoes falling down until we actually stop the pattern and the dominoes are done. And so notice how the text and the feeling, more than just the thought, called there's the chaos, there's the drama again, is that it's still showing up for us. And
I can see that. I can see that, like with my mom and my sister who are not talking to each other. And it's I'm feeling that physically in my gut, kind of feeling nauseous about it. Yeah. And I'm missing the communication that we had between the three of us. So we still got a group chat on WhatsApp, but my mom and my sister just they address me, but they don't address each other like they used to. And I'm missing that. So I feel really, yeah, kind of bereft. It's grieving.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the little inner child, it's like, oh, I want everybody to get along,
Oh, totally.
you know, like
Yeah.
everybody be okay.
Yeah.
And so now we're managing not only your own energy and your own inner child that says, I feel really uncomfortable here and I can't fix it. I'm helpless.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I can't make it okay for them and they won't make up and, you know, whatever the inner
Yeah.
child dialogue is. Yeah. So I don't have control. I definitely feel would be more about I am helpless in some way,
Yeah.
because there is, you know, and I've definitely had this one myself where, and then the overcompensation is go get control,
Yeah.
go get orderly, go get, like, let me plan for it so I can avoid it. Right. Let me figure out how to navigate and put the box all pretty and together so that I can control everything. And so
Mm-hmm.
when you're out of control, therefore helpless in the situation, it's like the resistance to the fact that they're not talking or they're not getting along or you're in the middle or whatever the situation is
Mm-hmm.
just bringing you back to the activation that's in your body. So it's not in your head first. Yes, the body feels something, then your head starts processing it. And that's where the ego lives, right? The ego is the
Right.
one that's trying to figure yourself out of this box,
Yeah.
use all the ego tricks, et cetera, and all the deflection responses that it could possibly use. So I think that's what's important about activation and taking ownership. Number one is coming through all of the steps, getting aware, getting, you know, making sure you're acknowledging the pattern for what it actually is all about. Like, what are you trying to show me? Oh, I still am plugged in around, I'm helpless and I
Mm.
can't change it for other people. Can't change it for my grandchild, can't change it for my daughter, my mom, my sister, you know. I mean, we all have our family tree, right? Can't change them for them.
Right.
And yet, you know, ultimately, what we're also feeling is we can't somehow change it for ourselves. Like,
Mm.
I'm helpless. And so what it's like, if we just would look inward and go, okay, let me resolve that, then all this, you know, outside of me would dissipate or become very neutral. So, so this is really good. So it's just another level of, and obviously we've been working one-on-one
Yeah.
on this, and it's like next level is taking that ownership and knowing, first of all, that there's still something plugged in that you're still creating. So therefore the dominoes have to continue to fall. And those dominoes look like the circumstances of the text coming in, the chaos, the drama, the not getting, two people not getting along. I mean, like, whatever it is. And so the
Right.
circumstances continue. And I had a prime example of this, you know, even yesterday. It's like I got a text in the middle of the you know, the session, and I was like, and so I spent the rest of the day after class, after we had the class, looking at it and going, huh, interesting. I'm still creating the, like, there's still, I'm still creating a circumstance to show me, and still I can still feel not as intense, like the intensity has definitely dropped. Wow, like night and day. Like, call me 5 years ago and I would have been like so mad and triggered and like going all crazy. But here I was just observing myself and going, still showing up, right? Either first I want to change, shift me so that either the circumstance stops showing up or they become so neutralized when they happen, it just like, it just dissipates, you know, it doesn't. And more importantly, usually when we really have let go of a pattern, the circumstances just don't happen anymore. Has anybody ever noticed that? It's like when you actually fully resolve something, there is no need for those circumstances. And I will be a testament to that. My first half of my life was riddled with turbulence and problem after problem after problem and scarcity and challenge. And, you know, it's like, I mean, it's like every other day. And I watched some of my family members still go through that. Like, they create constant problems. and challenges, and that's okay. I've been there. I understand, you know, I've got my own patterns, but it's like, I now can see how I've healed so much and I've released so much that it does not show up like that anymore. And it's interesting to be on the other side going, wow, where is all that? Look at how powerful I am. I, you know, shifted that reality. And we talked about the elevator of ascension yesterday. Is like we move from a certain timelines in reality. Like notice, like in the present now, there are a million billion not opportunities, million billion variations of reality. Like if anything is possible, right? One consciousness says anything's possible, all things are possible. Then we are in a very vertical, not linear, not sideways, horizontal, but we are in a vertical reality. Like there's many different realities that I could choose right now. Many, 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 many. And yet I've chosen this one on this elevator, this plane, this timeline. I'm here. And so it's like, oh, where's the reality for you, Stephanie? Where's the reality that exists that doesn't have that drama? Right? And it's like, can you see as possible that there is a life reality for you that you get to create that doesn't have it exist?
I saw a snippet of that today.
Very good.
Of me doing that. Because my daughter and Peyton were at the airport flying to Bangkok, Thailand, and yeah,
Nice.
and there was all sorts of chaos, and I didn't get involved. Henry did. So, and he didn't even get involved. He just said, Peyton, you've traveled many times with us. You know what to do, even if your mom doesn't. And so Peyton took care of it, and he got them through security, checked them in through security to the gate.
Got it.
So, but I did not get involved.
Okay. So
which I
what if,
will.
okay, so yes, it's almost like it's almost outside of your reality because you're still conscious of it.
Yeah, but it didn't bother me.
Yeah.
It didn't bother me. I actually thought it was
in reaction to it.
I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Because I knew Peyton would be fine.
Of course. Yeah. We know. He may not know.
No, he knew.
He's living in his little world, right?
Yeah.
Well, and so I would just put a question mark, stretch it a little bit more.
Yeah.
So you're getting there, right? It's just like, what if that even didn't exist? What if so the whole thing, that circumstance that Henry dealt with, handled, whatever you called it.
Yeah.
It's almost like, what if that didn't happen at all? What if that phone call never happened?
Okay.
And they just flew to Bangkok or wherever they're going.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know, so it's kind of like zooming out and going, okay, I'm the one that's creating the movie, and I'm the one that wrote the script. And right now, I wrote a script that included some kind of chaos with you know, family members that then Henry, my husband, handled. Right? So in some sense, it's still in your movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I see.
Yeah. So it's almost like, can we just go to watch a different movie? And it's like not there at all.
Well, but I didn't ask Henry to fix it. He came up and told me afterwards.
So you wouldn't have even been aware of it per se.
No.
Had he not said anything. So what's interesting is you created Henry telling you he was part of your script.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
And here's the thing. I just play with this for a minute, right? I'm using analogies, but and this doesn't mean go tell Henry not to tell you. That's not what I'm saying. Okay, don't tell him anything.
No, I won't.
We're on this offline. But it's just, I'm just opening your mind and possibility of, wow, what if that just absolutely didn't exist in my reality, my world, right? Like we know, and it's so interesting. It's kind of like I'm sitting here in a home looking at the blue sky, like the sky's right, you know, the window's right there. And I honestly don't know, like, meaning I'm not visibly observing. Everything's an observation, by the way. Life is observation. So there is a million things happening in across the world. And the only reason I might know about it is I will pull information or a memory or a news article or something in my mind, but I've never lived in Bangkok. I've never, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know by observing it what's actually happening in another part of the world, therefore a different reality. Right. So it's so interesting when I really zoom out and acknowledge that what I'm actually observing is not just like so much of what we create is in our head. It's in our imagination, which is interesting because everything begins with our imagination. Right. And we make everything up. Right. So had Henry not communicated that to you, you probably would not even have it in your knowledge, therefore your observation that it even occurred. And so I'm not saying don't tell him to not talk to you about it, but it's just a like, wow, what if, like, what if that just doesn't happen anymore? Right? Like they don't call with chaos. They just live their life and they're happy and they do their thing, you know, like it doesn't come into your world. So everything that comes into our observation is there because we put it there. Like, let's just let that sink in, right? Okay. So very good. So we started with a conversation around what pattern are we still not fully taking ownership of? And it's like the helpless pattern. And therefore, then you look at it in control. And that's the behavior that keeps the pattern going. And so what would be interesting, and I would just offer you, is when you still feel the helpless and the activation of that in some way, is to not go try to get into control, is to actually pause, close your eyes, and go inward. Feel the body, not the mind. The mind is like, what is happening? Why is that happening? Why are they doing that? Like the mind wants to analyze it. And instead it's about, oh, okay, this is my helpless pattern, or this is like whatever pattern, and just go into the body and feel it, find it. Where is it in your body? Experience it, embrace it. What does it want to tell you? What else does it need to show you? Like speak to your body and your, that energy. So that it will, you'll transmute it. Because the moment you keep putting a behavior, the dominoes are still falling tall. Like I'm going to go change the pictures on the wall or whatever. Yeah. Right. Or go get busy, right? Go get busy with something. I'm very good at that. That is just our deflection response, our ego going, nope, we're not going to go feel whatever that feeling is in my body. That's too painful. I don't want to know about that. And so that is how we start to outsmart our egoic self, is to be willing to really feel it and give it, like, send it a lot of love and a lot of light and a lot of, and I know you can do that. So, yeah. Okay. Very good. Very good. Thank you. I may come back to you. Just, I know you have to leave early, so sorry. Being here if you have to jump off. So thank you very much. All right, I'm going to unpin you. Here we go. All right, awesome. And so I wanted to also step over here and Terry, yes, great question, right? So she says, so it sounds like some good things might actually be bad patterns, right? The desire for order or enjoying order. And is this true, or am I misunderstanding? So yeah, great question. And I've definitely dove into this for myself. And this comes back to the duality of discernment is what I call it. It's a huge practice, and I'm still in it, still practicing. But over the years, I feel like I've gotten better and better and better, and like closer and closer and closer to it, is being able to see is if something I'm doing is actually disguised as ego versus, right, coming from ego, or is it truly essence and it's just pure joy? Like, oh, I just love doing that. So speaking from the neat freak, I'm a neat freak. I can relate to Stephanie very much. I'm a recovering control freak. Right. I'm a recovering OCD freak. So and I'll tell you, like, when I first got my first apartment, I I had a boyfriend and he moved in with me, and I owe him an apology, truly, because I moved into that apartment, and remember at 18 years old, I was still coming out of a lot of trauma, and I had no idea, right, how I was cleaning it up. But I moved into that apartment and it was my new shiny object, and I had everything in place. I had every pillow and every fork and I wanted it pristine and everything matched, and everything was minimal and all of the things. So um and there were times where he would like just put his shoes down, and I would flip out, and he's like, where do you want me to put my shoes? And so I do owe him an apology, but I have come a very long way. So here's the thing. I've come to a point where my neatness, my choice, is free of the need for it to be controlled. So I still am neat, but I'm a little more lax. I don't have to be OCD about it, but it is a process of uncovering why, right? The acknowledgement step, excuse me, the activation step, taking full ownership that I use that behavior as a way to create control, the illusion. And every time something was out of place, I literally got triggered. I got activated, and I was like, yeah, it's not the fork. Okay, at some point you have to realize it's not the fork. And it's not the out of place part of things in your environment. So now I just choose, like, I feel really good in, cleaning up and keeping things cute and nice and pretty and whatever. But if, something's out of place, I'm not in like a reaction anymore. So to answer your question, yes, I think there are a lot of times that our identity takes on. Remember, our identities are still a form of separation, because the ultimate, it's like understanding who we really, really are is the I am. And there is no separation of identity and the egoic identity, right? That is a human construct. So when we come into our human experience, our human game, then we create identity, we create ego, we create these constructs to then therefore play this game that we're in and protect us. And, it's all the illusion that we need protection. And so that's the experience that we get to play with, right? It's part of the human game. And when we start to observe it and experiment with it and understand it and like feel it, and I mean, like, notice, this is the work. This is the ascension work, is to see things from a much higher zoomed out place. And we start to tap into our infinite intelligence and our divinity and divine self. That's like, wow, look at that 5-year-old toddler that's like running the show and keeping you busy, making you move I would go into doctors' offices or businesses and be like moving the pictures on the wall because they were out of whack. Nobody's fixing them. Now, occasionally I still probably do that just because I think it's funny, but but before I would be like, oh my God, why can't they fix this? I would go into some kind of reaction about it. So to answer that question, which is very, very powerful to understand, and the only way to start, understanding is something you're doing that appears to be good, like an enjoyable thing, is why am I doing it? And where might it be coming from? And is this truly coming from ego or essence? Like, is it coming from essence and I just love doing it and it's like fun for me and it's just my preference? Because life is about preference. We live in a world where we learn through contrast, right? Like it's almost like, how do you know you like something? You probably have experienced what you don't like. The contrast. And so if you learn in contrast and you can start to see like chocolate or vanilla, oh, I kind of prefer chocolate. But, but the moment you're attached to chocolate and I can't have vanilla, then you have now put yourself in ego. or you're coming through ego. So anytime you hear yourself, I have to, I don't, like, I have no choice, and I can't do it this way, any of those limiting words, I need to, right? A couple people on here can relate to that. I know them well, right? Like, I need to, I have to, these are egoic responses. Because anything is a choice. Everything is possible. Remember, we are infinite beings. Everything is possible for us. We can choose 32 flavors, right? Or more, actually. An infinite flavors at the ice cream store. But at the moment we walk into the ice cream store and we choose chocolate and they don't have any left, and we become reactive and we become like, what? Right? Where's my chocolate? I have to have chocolate. Yeah, we are hooked egoically. There is no freedom and joy in that. And so I always say desire, not require, which was our previous masterclass, right? We can desire something. I would love to have chocolate, or something better. All right, please add that. Please add that statement, right? Because then you will call in things that are joyful and you love having, or the new, better, and more imaginative things that you don't even know exist can come to you, right? But the moment you attach and require exactly what you're asking for so specifically, and nothing else is an option, now we're in limitation. Now we're in separation from the infinite possibilities that we cannot possibly comprehend with our mind, right? So I'm curious, Terry, I don't know if you identified by chance a pattern that you feel like might be a good one that you have? And you're like, I don't know if this is ego or essence. Only because you asked the question, so I'm just wondering if you identified one.
Well, you mentioned yesterday being responsible, and I like order, and these are not, what is the term? Cleanliness is next to godliness. I mean, that's supposedly a good thing. But
Right.
that's why I asked the question. And being responsible is better than the opposite, which is being irresponsible. I mean, we really can't get through life that way. I mean, you can, but a lot of things are going to fall through the cracks.
Per se, yeah.
That's why I was asking the question, but I understand what you're saying. Are we doing it just because it's really comfortable, it's what we really enjoy, or are we doing it because it's an escape maybe,
Yeah, I call it a deflection.
a deflection?
Yeah, like distract myself from it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I like order in my house. But I can see where you're saying is that's okay, as long as it's not to this point where people can't come in and mess up anything at all, because you're just going to be itching to straighten it up immediately.
You're going to be distracted by that, right? Like now it's a distraction and deflection. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think of myself as a recovering perfectionist.
I do too.
But
that's a tool for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Part of it goes with my it all goes with our background, right? It's part of my training, part of what we have to do in my industry. Because sometimes imperfections can hurt people, it can do damage.
Saying from engineering. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there has to be a balance there where a certain amount is good, but beyond that, you're getting into ego.
Yeah. So interesting, right? I just want to offer something for you. Have you noticed how many have tos you said?
I didn't notice that. When I catch myself, I change it to get to, because I understand the difference.
Yes, I get you. So can you, and that's okay. I'm not, I'm just like giving you the mirror. So when you say engineering has to do this okay. So, and you have chosen to be engineer so that you have to have control. And so here, play with me for a minute. So I think yesterday I said, if you choose to be a doctor, what do you have to have? sick people,
Oh, yeah, yeah. I
right?
see what you mean.
So it's the
Mhm.
conversation of, if I'm a problem solver, what do I have to have? I have to have
Problems.
problems.
Mhm.
So if I'm
Mhm.
an engineer chosen, I chose to be an engineer, I'm still
Mhm.
shaking my desk. Then what do you have to be the identity called engineer? Things to control,
Things to engineer, things to create, to
things
build.
to, yeah, things to organize, things to, put together in a puzzle that's precise, right?
Mhm.
So, yes, so even in your career choice, even in engineering, you get to organize and put together and puzzle piece and, like, the Rector set. Right?
Well, and you get to, because the alternative is
Mhm.
that people can get hurt,
Sure,
you know,
that is one of the realities, or
right?
right, one of the parallel realities chosen, right, is that people can get hurt. So what
Yeah.
happens is, when we create identities and things that we choose to do in the life, like I didn't choose engineer. Intentionally.
Well, I kind of stumbled into it. I think, did I really choose it? Did I stumble into it? But yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
yeah,
go with chose it.
yeah, it's ultimately chosen, right? Still there, or still. So when we choose something, and it's not, there's no right, wrong, bad, or good, right? You just get to choose. You want to be a rocket scientist? You want to be, I mean, I went to college and I was like, I'm an accountant. Oh, no, I want to do fashion design. So I did both.
Mhm.
And then I was a makeup artist. Oh, done with that. Now I'm a controller. Oh, okay, done with that. Now I'm a business owner. Oh, now I'm, done with that. Or I was a boutique owner. All right. Like, I just kept choosing different realities and different identities. And it's interesting because today I'm not an identity of a boutique owner. I'm not the identity of a fashion designer. I'm not the identity of a makeup artist. I just do my own makeup.
Mhm.
So we shift, identities shift, and the power of that is that, as part of the human experience, we get to shift our identities. So are you still practicing engineer?
I was just going to say, I'm actually retired, so I've lost that identity in a way, partially.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, very good.
So my
Yeah,
focus
so
now is on the coaching, but
right,
I'm just saying, I was just coming from, that
past,
background.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
To
yeah, so interesting.
understand what you're saying.
I thought that was accurate. I thought you had retired from it. So
Yeah.
and we have someone on here that's retired from doctor, right? So um and I have someone on here that's about to retire from financial planner. So
Yeah, yeah, and that's when you realize that you have an identity wrapped up in all of that, because when you retire and people say, "What do you do?" And you say, "I'm retired." It's not the same thing as saying I'm a doctor, or I'm an engineer, or I'm a boutique owner, or whatever. I'm retired.
yeah,
Who is that?
yeah, what identity is that, right? It is
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
It's something we've defined out there in the world, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, so very good. I think it's just it's so fun to finally be so aware and observant, like zoom out, back up, and just observe our identities and the constructs and the decisions and the beliefs that we have put together, that is there to convince us of how real something is, so that we stay in its limitation, we stay in its containment. And so if we believe that, we have to organize the walls and the photos on the walls, whatever, right? It's a play. It's like the movie script that said, this is how it's supposed to work, and I have to have it this way, right? In order for it to be whatever I say it's going to be. But the have tos are coming from an egoic construct, because ego itself is just a limitation, right? And it fights for its limitations. Notice how it fights.
Yeah,
Will fight
yeah.
for you. It will say, this is so, I'm a position, I'm an opinion, I have a judgment, or whatever the ego trick is. It's a part of my ego tricks. And when we hear that, we can just back up and go, okay, is that an absolute truth? Right? Does it always have to be that way? And the moment we, have to, it's like, can we just be more malleable to go, well, if everything's possible, why is it only one way? right? So it's just like we start to question things and we start to become more experimental and more of a curiosity for life and curiosity about ourselves and curiosity about our patterns. And certainly we have patterns that seemingly get us good things and we adopt them into our identities. And I think the experience of evolution of who we are and our elevator of ascension is to realize how much we create all of it. Therefore, if we no longer want that pattern, even though it's been treating us really nice, oh, I have the power to change it. I have the power to break the cycle. I have the power to turn left instead of always turning right, whatever that looks like in your life. So I think I love that you did bring this question up because it is that disguise that is so convincing. It's like the pattern of responsibility versus irresponsibility. Who made up the distinction and therefore the meaning of what irresponsible means? It's so interesting because, and I'll speak for myself because I have a pattern, old pattern, breaking the pattern called I am the responsible party. So everybody comes to me to solve the problem. And therefore then I'm a problem solver, right? The next layer of the pattern. And so if I'm the responsible one, if I hold it all together, right? I bring it, bring the solutions and I'm responsible for the solutions, all of that. Like that was like childhood on. I mean, it was just so, and then I got to a point where I was so resistant and resentful of it, right? But I wasn't shifting it. I just kept getting upset about it. I'm like, oh, hold on a minute. I've created this pattern. I get to shift out of it. And so responsibility is like it's still a self-judgment. It's like, am I responsible? And then I'm making irresponsible wrong or bad or not desirable. And then we look in the world and we get evidence that responsible people are better and irresponsible is not okay. Like it's bad. Like we will create evidence. Trust me, I have. And I've created it myself. My first business was I created the first business I had was a boutique in 2006, went bankrupt, and immediately took on the shame of, oh my gosh, that means I was irresponsible. And when you take in the identity that you're irresponsible and then therefore their shame, that is a very painful place to be. And so, is that who I am? Is that who I am? Right? No, none of us are. That's not who I am. I am this whole, abundant, infinite being. I'm not irresponsible. It's just an occurrence. It's just a circumstance. It was a lesson. It was part of the pattern. It was a domino. It had to happen just to keep the momentum. One more domino so I could see it. I didn't even see it. I lived in the shame of that for 5 years and never spoke of it. And then 5 years later, I stood on a stage and I spoke it to a room of strangers and I was like, and they all came up to me and they're like, oh my God, I'm so glad you shared your story. And I was like, oh, this is not who I am. It's just something I went through. It was just a circumstance. It was just an experience. It was just a script on the movie. Right?
Right. It's like, it's that idea of, for example, a failure. You fail at something, so I am a failure.
Correct.
No,
Identity.
you failed it. You just failed at that one thing. That doesn't make you a failure. I mean, I had somebody telling me that when I was, dealing with a divorce myself.
100%.
You feel like such a failure in a case like that. No, you didn't. You're not a failure. That may have failed.
That just ended.
It's just different. That's not you. That's those circumstances.
Right.
But that's what we do. Like you said, we take that on as our identity. I am a failure.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. The moment you put I am in front of it, it's like, what's the word you're choosing?
Yeah.
You're about to attach it to your identity. And yet the beautiful thing is identities shift. They are not permanent. And when we can get really comfortable with impermanence and notice how there's constant ego death. When we have an identity called I am I am helpless, or I am not good enough, as you shared yesterday,
Mhm.
is when we have that is an identity characteristic right now. I am not good enough, and the pattern continues. The pattern is installed. And so when we shift out of I am not good enough identity and move into the void, we start exploring the void, like, ooh, who am I without the pattern called I am not good enough? I don't know. I've never been there. I've never been on level 6. I'm on 5. I've never been to 6, right? That whole thing. The ego dies. There's a part of the aspect of ego, it thinks it's dying. Like, we're just exaggerating it, but it thinks it's dying. So there's an ego death that occurs as you move to I am good enough, or whatever the next you're still going to create a new identity, because it's the human experience to still put identity on the experience of being human, but we get to choose the experience of that new identity. And so we get to be more conscious and intentional and at choice, versus unconscious, operating from a plugged in pattern that we have not become aware of, we haven't acknowledged, we haven't embraced, right? And we certainly haven't activated our ownership of, right? So so what's interesting is, after we've activated, I'll move into step 4, is attachment, detachment. So when we have a pattern, we're attached. We're attached to I am not good enough. And I'm going to just unpin you, and you can come back, Terry, but I'll just unpin for a moment and we'll continue to work here. So as we move into step 4, attachment, detachment, we're looking to see, okay, I've identified the pattern. I can see that I am helpless. I can see that I am not good enough. I can see that I have to be responsible. I can see that, whatever pattern is playing itself, right, and over and over and over, now it's time to detach from the attachment. And this is where my detachment method comes into play. And certainly, if you're on my if you've come through, if you've taken the quiz, actually, if you take the quiz and just find out what your egoic archetype is, like, which is complementary, you'll start to gain access to the detachment method in full. So detachment method is really a process of identifying the attachment first and foremost, unpacking the resistance, right? Because notice, just feel it. Just feel the I am not good enough experience and go, do I feel resistance in my body? Sure, because I don't want to have it. I was like, go away. Like, I'm trying to get rid of it, right? That's resistance. We're not embracing it by any means. We're resisting that attachment in that moment. And then if we move to a place of allowance and allowing that experience to be there, because we created it, right? It's just another level of activation and ownership, is allowing that. Oh, quiz says rebel. That's okay. I know. I just made up labels, guys. It's just a word. Okay, very good. Thanks for taking the quiz. So yes, I am my secondary is rebel. My first one's realist. So yeah, which is all about control and all of that. Yeah. So very good. Good to know. And so therefore, if you've got an attachment, you're using rebel ego tricks a lot. Yes, you're probably a realist on the second, right? I can see that in you. The have tos and all of that are the realist, right? It's like, I have to the requirements. And so when we play with the attachment and we don't realize we're attached to something, or that we have an unconscious pattern running, then the rebel comes in and tries to keep you safe, right? The anger, the position, the irritations, the judgments, right? The all of that is a game of the ego to try to keep you away from the experience of the emotional pain called I'm not good enough, or whatever the pattern is, and as an example. So here we are in the attachment, detachment process, and we have to identify that resistance. We have to start to allow it. And ultimately, when you start to really embrace and allow a pattern that was installed many, many, many years ago, we will usually start to feel the emotional rise and the emotional body energetic experience. And that step is so important, is to dive deep into the discomfort. And if we don't dive into the discomfort, then we're just going to stay on the surface and the ego tricks are going to continue to maintain it. It will not be detached, right? Because it's so interesting to watch. And this, of course, is a huge part of my work with everyone in my containers, is to actually facilitate the detachment process, because the ego is so smart that it keeps you at step 3. Actually, usually 1 or 2, and you never get to step 4. You just won't, it will not let you get there, right? It's like, and so obviously I create a safe container where people can, you know, actually feel into the step 4, which is the emotional release. And then we move into what I call the truth reframe, and really understanding how to unplug the pattern from the power grid that you created. Right? When we create an intention from our consciousness in the field of all possibility, we plug it in. We just say, here, this is the one, this is the pattern I want. And your consciousness creates it. So we created a pattern called I'm not good enough, or I'm helpless, I'm responsible, whatever. We plug it in, gets a lot of energy, right? A lot of energy goes to that plug, and then the circuit is clear and it just pushes it through. And we spend the rest of our life creating evidence to confirm it and to validate it. And we need the circuit breaker, right? We need to turn it off. And so we unplug it with step 5. We unplug that that power cord, right? And we take back our power. And we literally do an experience where you get to regain that energy, because you have been giving it away. You have been completely giving away your energy to something that is no longer serving you. It is out of alignment. It does not work. You don't want it anymore. And yet it keeps staying plugged in. So we want to unplug that. So that's part of the detachment process as well. And then we certainly want to reinstall, like, appreciation and setting new intentions, and all of that is a big piece of you know, being able to, like, change your future, right, and come into a new reality. So that is step 4. And certainly as I go along, please make sure if there's any questions that are coming up, you know, type them in the chats or what have you. So the last step I want to talk about is the 5th A, which is action. Right? We have to practice this. Like I said, we've got 2 days, couple hours together. You're hearing this information, you're hearing the steps of pattern shifting. And yet if we don't follow through with some type of action, and the action is about practicing, practice shifting and having a new pattern, right? And so remember, if we've moved through the detachment, if we've gone through every step, including the detachment method, which is certainly more involved, then we move to a place of practicing, embodying this in our life. And like I said, you know, even yesterday, I have been in a very intentional practice. So I've been in the action step of removing 2 specific patterns. And like I mentioned yesterday, a big part of that practice and that action was divorce. It was actually uncoupling from a pattern enmeshment, entanglement that I had with someone else. And although beautifully served, right, I acknowledge it and I embrace it and I'm grateful for it. And, you know, but there were definitely patterns to be broken and unplugged. And now I'm in the action phase of that pattern shifting. And so even with that, there were certain patterns that there's multiple patterns that existed. A reality, a domino, you know, kind of popped up yesterday. And then I got to look at it and observe it differently and experience whatever I needed to experience in my energy body, and then be able to take look at it in a way that is not like who I was as prior, right? Not who I was as the identity of that pattern. We identify with these patterns that we create, by the way. We identify with the generational patterns. So yesterday we had someone that was very heavily identified with, I have to work hard in order to succeed. How many of us have that, right? There's a lot of us that have that one. Yeah. So when that's true, not only have we adopted generationally, right? Like from our parents, grandparents, whoever, they have convinced us that that's the only way. Yes, like we are, and it's like, and again, this is not about blaming our circumstances, because the moment we do that, what do we become? We become victim consciousness. And so when we look at parents, or because or grandparents or past generations or teachers or people in our life, and we say, that's why I am the way I am, we've just given away our power. And so I just remind you of that. It's like, be conscious of your creative power and be excited about it. And so when we start to practice shifting, a big piece of that is, one of the ways we do that is identify the ego trick. So when you take the quiz, you're going to get the 14 ego tricks, right? I highly recommend it. If you don't want to use that, that's fine. Use other tools, but you have to get really self-aware of your emotional regulation and what your ego's behaviors are. And if you're not self-aware, and the tricks came to me because they're just like quick little signals. And it's like, yep, okay, what does the signal mean? The signal means something that is going on underneath that I need to identify as an attachment. There's a source to that. There's a pattern, there's a belief loop, there's a limitation, there's something going on that I need to identify. It is not the circumstance sitting in front of me. It is not the picture that's hanging sideways on the wall. It's not the fork out of place, right? But if I feel angry or irritated, the rebel, that is immediately a sign that there is something deeper going on. And notice how we just walk someone back from the picture on the wall, or the room is disorganized or whatever, and walked it all the way to back to I am helpless. Now that's an attachment, not the picture on the wall, not the disorganization. So as we practice shifting, we'll start to see the resolve, right? We get to let go of how we have identified with that pattern, and the ego death will be experienced. We will have to explore the void. Who am I without the pattern? So one of my big patterns that I'm definitely shifting, and in a big way, like it is, yeah, I am definitely on the other side of this one, and yet it's still in practice. It's not fully complete, I guess I would say, is scarcity, and specifically money scarcity. I definitely lived in sorry, I'm shaking my desk again. A childhood that there was, evictions and broke. I'm broke. I have no money. I can't afford it. I can't spend it, by food stamps, what have you. And so anyway, I adopted, I was like, oh, wow. Okay. An identity with that. However, it was interesting. My higher self kept pulling me forward and going, this is not it. This is not the only way. And so, however, it's kind of like I've created an affirmation for lots of years that I'm, financially independent, or financially, secure, and, all of that, meaning like I never have to work another day in my life. And no, I'm not fully there yet. However, I'm on the cusp of understanding where money actually comes from. And the reason I say that is that I had a kind of another level of awakening this year where it changed in me viscerally. Like I felt it so different. I was like, whoa, I keep looking outside of me for the money. I keep looking outside of me for the security of the money. And money is not made outside of me. And so there's just this switch going on that I'm in, that it's like, where does money actually come from? And it is coming from my consciousness. It's coming from my infinite abundant supply. And I'm the bank. We keep looking at all the things we have to do to make money. It's like we have to do this action in order for the money to occur. No, the money's already there. And we block it further by actually getting in our way with all the action that we think we have to do. So it's more energetic. This is about energetics more than anything, is like, what's the energy we're coming from when we think about money coming to us, right? And so I don't even, I say the word money now, but I actually call it appreciation expressions. Notice money is just an exchange. It's just a tool that we've used to appreciate something. Thank you for your service. Thank you for the food. Thank you for cooking it for me because I didn't want to cook for myself. I didn't want to cook at home. Oh, thank you for the groceries so that I can cook for myself. So I'm expressing appreciation at the register. And every time I hand my card, I literally tell myself thank you because I just paid myself back. It's a very different, and I will probably, as I continue to move more and more of this awareness, a money masterclass is coming, right? Because we know that that's a big topic in the world, right? And so scarcity, especially financial scarcity, you can have scarcity of love, you can have scarcity of money, you can have scarcity of enoughness. You can, scarcity can look, bottom line, scarcity is not enough, and there's a limitation. That's what scarcity is. It's like there's not enough of something. Oh yeah, Terry's money doesn't grow on trees. No, actually, correct. It doesn't grow on trees. It comes from me. I grow the money. Which we don't think of it that way, right? We go like, money doesn't grow on trees, but then we still look for the bank to give me the money or other people to give me the money. We're still looking outside of us. So we might as well say that money grows on trees. We might as well, if we're going to say that people give me money, right? And so it's a much bigger, deeper conversation. And I know I may be like going over people's heads, but it's like, wow, when I started to sink into this, it changed my relationship to it. And so we'll dive more into that at some point. But the point is a scarcity pattern, huge. And let me just tell you how disguised scarcity patterns can be when you've gotten really, really good at it. And I'm not in a place of, I'm not even in a place of like the need to have a scarcity pattern. Like, I'm perfectly fine. I make plenty. I don't, am I making the abundance that I say I want, or some number that I need in the bank account, and all of a sudden that number is going to make me feel safe? That's the difference, is energetically be safe regardless of the digit on your screen. Remember, you made the digit. You're creating the digits on the screen because the digits are an illusion. They're made up. They're part of the movie. Right? If we have a vertical, unlimited level of realities we can choose that the digits look different on the screen. But we live with the digits and what we think is the limitation, and that, oh, it's going, and we also live that it won't fill back up like water. Like if you drink water, notice how we don't doubt that we can go get more water in the cup. But if we empty our bank account, we panic like it's never coming back. And I have been there. Like, trust me. Like, and the panic is an experience in the body, yet my bank account wasn't empty. You can create the experience simply by imagining the experience in your body. And so no matter the pattern, you're creating an experience in your body, and then therefore attaching it to your identity, and then therefore creating the dominoes that fall. And this is another point I want to make as you practice shifting, is that we have a law of cause and effect. But the law sounds like the circumstance causes what I get. Like the cause, there's a cause out there, and then that's why I have the reality or the bank account that I have, right? The economy is bad, so I have less money, or whatever you want to look outside of yourself for the cause. and then therefore the effect, the result. And the truth is, what the law actually is saying is that our consciousness is the cause, and then all the evidence, the observations in our life are the effect of our consciousness. So in this pattern shifting, we are looking at how do I shift what I have plugged in to my consciousness, right? From my consciousness. What do I have plugged in? And when we unplug that, then we have the opportunity to actually have a different cause, therefore different effect. So coming from us, everything is coming from us, everything. And I mean, like, write down the word everything. And it's like, when you can start to live your life from a place of looking and going through your day, this is your practice, go through the day and look at everything around you that you can actually observe with your eyes and go, wow, I made that. Wow, look how genius I am. Look at the blades of grass. I made that. I made the detail. I made the detail. I created everything from my consciousness, from the one consciousness, right? So if consciousness, and my clients love this, is I call it that we are the ocean, because I love the ocean. So ocean feels very infinite to me, huge, massive. I live by the ocean in California, and I sit by the ocean and I'm just like, and there's my consciousness. And so it's just this expansive, infinite feeling. And then us human bodies are a cup. We, get a cup, pick up some ocean water, and then we believe now that we're the cup instead of the ocean in it. We are the ocean, and the cup is just holding part of the ocean. So if we are the ocean, we are the consciousness that is creating and causing everything that becomes an effect in our life. And so that is part of the practice, is starting to observe everything around us as something our consciousness created. It's everything coming from who we are, called consciousness. Then wow, how do we just simply shift the focus of our consciousness so that a new reality, new effect shows up in our observation? It's kind of like, and this goes back to imagination, right? Like our consciousness is, and we notice how everything in our experience and the observation of our world is first something imagined. I love the story about, right, the Wright brothers that created the airplane and all of that. There were no airplanes before they made them. Like they had to imagine and believe beyond a shadow of a doubt it was possible. And there's so many beautiful examples of people believing and knowing, right? Part of the desire not require process of, you've got to believe it for yourself, not just believe it for other people. You got to believe it for yourself, but more importantly, you have to know 100% within, viscerally, you have to know that it's completely possible. And therefore, the result shows up, right? Then you have what you desire. And so when they were building the plane or creating the plane, who knows how many variations, I don't know the whole story, like detail by detail, but like there was no plane to say, oh, it's possible for someone else. They had to just start with, oh, I believe it's possible for me. I can create this. I can engineer this. My engineers, right? And so I love that, because everything starts with imagination. And therefore, it's coming from a consciousness called the ocean of consciousness, right? All one. And so we are just an aspect. And that is why I say, you created me today, and I created you. If you're watching on the replay, you created me to show up in your feed. And then I therefore am an aspect of you, a mirror reflection of something in you. You are a mirror reflection of me, because we are all part of the same ocean. And so when we deny aspects of others, like we deny aspects, which mean we're you know, resistance to other people in the world or other things in the world, we are denying a part of ourselves. Doesn't mean we have to live with particular behaviors or abuses. I mean, I have that experience in my childhood as well. Like there was domestic violence. And, you know, it's like, no, I moved out at 14 because I made a choice that said, I don't want to be in this experience anymore. And it took me a lot of years to simply forgive the aspect of that man that created the abuse, that chose the abuse to be abusive. So I forgave that aspect of me, right? Reflection. So therefore it's like no power, it dissipates, just blends into the rest of it, right? And so it's like, and then I get to go forward with my power intact, the power of who I am, the creative force that I am. And so when we deny other aspects of life and we feel something about it, right? I get it. And so that's where the free will and the choice to remove ourselves from. But if we don't do the work, notice how I went away from that experience at 14. I wasn't forgiving until my 20s. So I carried the aspect of it through my imagination, through my energy body for years until I did the work. So circumstances occur in a split second. We are the ones that either carry it forward or let go and release. And I will tell you, I have a lot of people, let's not say a lot. I have had people in the last 6 months that are assuming a lot about how I should be suffering because I'm divorced. And I will tell you full-hearted, full truth, right? There was suffering, there was process, there was emotions, there was, I mean, sure, but I time collapsed that into about a 4 to 5 week period. And I didn't sit there and go, I'm going to get through this in 4 weeks. No, that's not what I mean. I just went through a process of allowing and letting go of the resistance, allowing, letting go of the resistance, allowing the ego death, letting go. And I let myself move through that experience and choose a perspective of my marriage, of some of the circumstances. And there are certainly things that occurred that anybody looking at it would be like, oh my God, I would be so angry and you shouldn't forgive that. And I'm like, no, not when it's an aspect of me and I certainly created it. Why am I going to hold on to the anger? Because anger is an ego trick. So there's people, and it's okay. There's nothing wrong with their assumption. I get it. I get it. But and I'm honestly, I step back and go, wow, I'm really proud of myself. I'm really proud because I did a lot of work to get to the place where I can move through things that seemingly are like the hardest things in life per se, and truly be at peace in my body and my spirit and my soul and my mind, and allow like a new level of identity to show up in a very short amount of time. And so it was literally about a 5-week period. And there's just so much peace and release and acceptance. And no, I'm not holding a grudge. I'm not angry. I forgave because why? He's an aspect of me and I created the pattern. It was there on purpose. I acknowledge it. I own it. And I can only leave. What's left is love. Do I choose to stay in the experience of that observation called that relationship? No, the relationship has shifted. The way that we celebrate the relationship is friendship now, and that's where it is. And yay, because it broke the pattern. It's breaking the pattern. I'm breaking my pattern. It'll be up to him if he chooses his patterns or not. That's up to him. But it's like the assumption that I'm supposed to still be angry and struggling and heartbroken, and that's a choice, internal choice. And so it's like, I will say it's one of the most beautiful things I've been able to accomplish and do for myself, and to be on the other side of it. And those that have seen me go through it you know, intimately, right, the process, have come to me and said, I feel your energy difference. Like holy cow, right? And that's what I mean. I feel it, but that's great that others can observe it too. But that is also what's available. How you show up to the effects in your life because you cause them is the power of our creative choice, right? And it's interesting. I don't know. You guys know. I forget her name. It'll come to me hopefully, but you know, it's two dancers, and the guy Twitch, his name was Twitch. He committed suicide, and then super sad. I was saddened by it. I was like, oh, he was such a beautiful soul. He was super talented, and like, wow, to know that he's suffering that heavy. And the ultimate ego trick, one of the 15th ego trick that I don't have on the list, is suicide, in my opinion, because it ends it all. It ends all the suffering, which is what the ego is trying to do with all the other tricks, is stop you from suffering. And she was interviewed, or you know, I caught you know, a statement that she made, and she said, yeah, everybody is expecting me to be suffering so much because he passed, you know, I lost my husband, whatever, to suicide. And she said, but I've honored him, and she's experiencing it in a different way because she's done the work on self to choose how she moves through that experience. And it's just been and I can relate to that. Like I can relate to the choice that we have, and how graceful we can move through things. So anyway, I share that, and hopefully that supports someone in today's message, right? So yeah, Leah, he did about I mean, I want to say maybe a year or two ago now. I guess maybe a year and a half. Not too long ago, but okay, so I want to hear from anyone here online. Just what is the takeaway so far? Like, what are you hearing? And certainly, is there any question that's coming up about the 5 steps of the pattern shifting formula? Number 1, awareness. 2, acknowledge. 3, activation, right? Own it. 4 is the attachment, detachment, and 5 is the action. Any questions, or just what are you hearing for yourself? And hello, my friends on Facebook. When you imagine unpacking your pattern, right? Like really cycle breaking. Where do you find yourself getting stuck? Where do you stop yourself? What keeps you in the spin? Notice it's like a spin cycle, right? Cycles are consistently going around and around and around, and it's like, how do I get out of the cycle? So I'm looking to see, you know, where do you guys get stuck the most? Okay, we have a question. When you are in the void, how do you know when it's the right time to take action and not just another ego trick to move out of the discomfort? Okay. So yeah, so it's interesting. We can take action in the middle of discomfort, right? We can move even though we feel uncomfortable. And I see this example in myself when I'm sometimes extremely uncomfortable before I get on a stage in front of 500 people, but I still move. I still get on the stage and I still take action. And then, you know, because my body and my wants to be uncomfortable, right? My nervous system isn't calibrating. So when you are in the void, which means that you've recognized the pattern, you've declared, I don't want to be this anymore. Like, so who am I without it? Now you're in the void because you don't know who you are. So I just wanted to recap that for anyone that's like, what the heck is the void? So you start to explore the void in that identity shift of I'm no longer this pattern. So who am I without it? And therefore we're in the bridge to moving to the new pattern or the new identity that we choose to create. And so when you're in the void, there's massive discomfort a lot of times because our nervous system is like, what are you doing? I don't know what you are. Like zap, 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 zap. Right? It starts zapping you and wants to pull you back into comfort and wants you to come back to the pattern because you know it so well. And so when you're in the void, be okay with the discomfort in the body. Certainly dive deeper into it, go into the attachment detachment process, right? And feel the emotions, feel the energy, embrace it, pull the power back, all of that. At the same time, you align your actions with your desired new identity. And making it's like, can you do the action without the attachment? So can you do the action out of like just fun and joy and excitement for, I know I feel uncomfortable, but I'm going to do it anyway. I know I feel uncomfortable to go nomadic for however long. I don't even know how long I'm going to do this, and where I live in new places every month. I have no idea. I have about 6 months planned, like possibilities planned out. Like I say, plan loosely, meaning I have a vision of where I'm going on a couple more months. And then after that, I don't know. And I'm trusting literally up until the week before I have to check out sometimes. I mean, the last time I didn't know where I was moving here until 4 days before I needed to check out. Like, can you trust Gus, God, universe, source, to guide you to your next move? And everything shows up and everything I needed and the place revealed itself and all of it. Like, I was on the apps and like, where do I go? Nothing's working? Where do I go? And then I surrendered and I was like, oh, it'll show itself. And it was like 3 or 4 days before I was like, oh, there it is. And then I bought it and I'm done. Right? Can you be in the discomfort while still moving in the way that your new identity would move? I think that finally helped me through this void and into my new identity. Yay. Move out of the void by claiming your new identity. Yes, know and be the real me. Yes, yes, yes. So yeah, so it's like you've created the new identity and you're removing and we're in the action step. We're practicing the shift. And you just move in a way of trust and surrender and flow. And, it's kind of like the effects of our cause. And Leah, I know you personally, so I know what you're speaking of, like the effects of your cause. The cause is what you plugged in and said, this is my pattern. This is my consciousness has chosen this. And then the effects are there. And then now they show up, they're in your 3D reality. They're in your home. Right. And so they're in your observation, they're in your space, all the effects of your previous cause. And so, yeah, in a 3D manner, we have to now clean up the effects and move them out. So my effect of I live in a townhouse in Redondo Beach in a 4-bedroom townhouse. I then chose a divorce, separation, and people moved out of the townhouse. I no longer desire or need a 4-bedroom townhouse. And so my effects have been a 4-bedroom townhouse full of furniture. And now I've made a choice. My new identity is digital nomad. What does that mean? Oh, okay. I need a 7-foot storage unit. Well, all this stuff in a 4-bedroom townhouse will not fit. So I moved, even though, remember, I still had some doubt and fear and like, oh, who is this? What am I about to do? Like, I've never done this before. And I moved in alignment with that new identity called digital nomad. And I got the storage unit and I sold the furniture and I moved it in, moved stuff weekly and daily into the storage unit. So you do physically have to, per se, do something. And like, that's why I say action, but how do you know it's coming from ego or essence, right? To answer that question. put that ego trick sheet, right? The sheet that says the 14, you put it on your refrigerator and go, am I doing one of those? Am I behaving in some way that is more consistent with ego, or am I just moving and taking actions that are in full alignment? And a lot of times, if we're starting to behave in a way that feels pressure, feels contraction. Oh, I didn't even speak to this. This is another telltale sign where you're in resistance versus expansion, is you will feel contraction in your body. You will feel the have tos. You will feel the, I got to get this done. Hurry, 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 hurry. Right? I've got to get away from this identity. No, just do the actions, take whatever time, delegate, get help. I don't know, like there's a million ways you can cut a slice of bread, right? You can get things done in this world in many different ways, but so many times we limit ourselves to, this is the only way I can do it and I have to do it all by myself, or what have you. So we just got to look, am I moving forward? Am I moving into expansion? Am I moving into my new identity with more limitation? That will be another sign of I'm doing this in ego. Even though I'm in discomfort, I'm actually moving in ego instead of essence. And I'm looking at the expansiveness and feeling expansive about the action I'm taking, or am I feeling contraction? And discomfort is, for me, there's a difference between contraction and discomfort. And again, the duality of discernment, it's really a practice of being able to discern that and know yourself well, and being able to feel like, is this egoic resistance, like contraction, or I'm just feeling uncomfortable because my nervous system isn't calibrating yet. So identity shifting comes with discomfort because our nervous systems have to get calibrated to the new identity. And so we simply walk through the bridge. It's kind of like I go zip lining. Yes, my body and nervous system is not calibrated to jumping on a zip line over hundreds of feet of thin air, whatever you want to call it. And I'm still going to do it. And I still move because it still feels expansive at the same time. Like, this is going to be fun. And it was. I've done it twice or 3 times. Jumped out of an airplane, same feeling. Let me just tell you, I can remember the feeling I had in 1998 when I jumped out of an airplane. Like, that is how visceral the experience was. Was I in discomfort? Yes. Was I also feeling expansion? Yes. Was the experience freaking amazing? Yes. And I lived. So there you go. Okay, let's see. Leah says, my martyr wanted to keep me in the void. Martyr is the ego archetype for anyone that's new. Wanted to keep me in the void to continue to feel that discomfort because it was what I know. There you go. That is why I have felt so misaligned lately, because I have claimed my identity and now I choose to take action in full alignment. Full body, yes. There you go. Just move. Just follow the alignment. And yes, the martyr and the egoic self wants to keep you in the struggle and keep you in the discomfort of, and it's like, no, don't do that. I don't know who that is. And it's holding you back, right? So just flow with the alignment and take the actions that make sense to clean up your effects, right? Your effect is notice what we do or feel today from our consciousness, what we create, cause, is going to show up in the future. We're always creating, and then we manifest, right? So if we feel that our identity is complete and done, our new identity, in our action step 5, and we practice shifting, there is going to be, observations and effects that we need to move out, right? That no longer fit what new identity we've created, what new pattern we're creating. And therefore, relationships might go, places may go, things may go, right? Like, those are the effects of our past pattern. We have to let things go, and that's where the ego death and the void come in. So practice letting go And if you want more support on being able to hold the line of shifting your patterns and elevating your ascension and ultimately finding the nuances of your egoic self, I will take a moment now to actually share ways that you can get more support. It's very simple. I keep it simple. I have a program that's called the Ego Shift Experience. And it's a year-long group collective program. We meet twice a month. And we also included is a course where you have some self-study. In that, we work together to continue to support you in this journey that I know every one of you are on. And that is the Ego Shift Experience. Now, there is a higher level if you want to upgrade. Many people go into the Masters, which is where you get private sessions included, and you also get unlimited 24/7 coach on demand, all right, mentor on demand in Boxer. And so that's an option too. And of course, those are limited. So I prefer to have a conversation to see if that's a fit, you know, for you and I, right? So those are my two major main containers. And then there's always a power hour. If you're like, I don't know if I'm ready for all that. If you just want to spend an hour together and you actually just want to like an acute situation, then thank you, Leah. Yes, you're one of my masters. The acute situation, we can just handle that, or at least start to shift it in a power hour. And that's just a one-time $555. And and the ego shift is $11.11 a month. So if any of that interests you, what I would recommend is that you reach out to me and schedule a call so that we can just figure out which one makes sense for you at this given moment, and to continue to get the support that you need. And how you do that is you get on my calendar at now.bravemasters.com. Very simple. Now is the moment. now.bravemasters.com. And I've got some time on my calendar opened up, and we can figure it out together, right? If any of that resonates with you. And, you know, and I think the other part of it is being in community of like-minded people that are thinking and practicing and shifting together is extremely powerful. Because if you find yourself doing this on your own, your ego will most likely derail you because it's used to derailing us. It's keeping us small. It's keeping us limited. So it is just an opportunity to have the support and the higher level conversation, and to bring you out of your old patterns, your old way of thinking, your old way of being, and be able to support you in your next level of ascension. So the Ego Shift Experience. And if you are registered, you'll like you've RSVP'd, then there will be additional information on that coming through email. So you'll have more details about that, and you can make a decision when it feels right. So that is that. And so I want to leave you with this is, first of all, I'm open for questions. I'm open for feedback, right? And takeaways. And what is it that you're hearing for yourself? And what did you write all over your notebook, right? That I suggested you have in front of you, right? What is this activating inside of you today, right? Like, what did this session, this masterclass bring forward that you did not see before, or that you did not fully embody, right? It's like we have heard things over and over and over. And the beautiful part of that is when we're ready, then there will be some different level of activation. And that is truly what I hope this has been, is a new level of activation, right? And so it is a beautiful dance between our essence and our ego at any given moment. Our ego will keep us limited in what we can do and what we can invest in and who we are, and, you know, and what we're capable of. And then our essence will always guide us in the right direction if we actually learn to trust it. And that is my word for the year. I even stamped it on my wrist. Trust Gus, God, universe, source. And I am that source, right? I'm the ocean. But every day I get to remind myself to stop leaning in to my egoic self that I am so familiar with, and start learning to trust Gus, start learning to trust the source and the infinite wisdom that already is available to me. I just keep shutting down the circuit, if you want to call it, right? So so I hope this has definitely reached someone today that has made the biggest difference, that has brought this to you know, a new level of observation and understanding for you. And I am just really excited to hear more from you as to what did get activated. So please, whether you're listening on social or what have you, just put a comment and I will come back and read every single one of them. So Leah says it is time to take action, right? Inspired action, in spirit action, in essence action. Live the life in infinite, powerful abundance. Yes, 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 yes. Amen. All right. So let me double check. Anyone, any comments? Hello, everyone on Facebook. Thank you so much. Again, if you are on the replay, hit hashtag replay wherever you are. And I can't wait. Please stay connected. I will have other transmissions and other master classes. And the other reminder, remember, I was going to type this in the chat, but this will also be an email, is to take the survey. Hold on, let me put this in there. So if you have been watching this, even if you weren't on Zoom and you want to give me some feedback, you can go to classsurvey.bravemasters.com. Class survey, right? Masterclass. So classsurvey.bravemasters.com. And 2 questions. Just let me know if this was valuable to you and what you took away. And so that was one reminder I had for myself. Definitely remember to go take the Egoic quiz. Right? We know that one of our guests here is a martyr and the other is a rebel, and then I'm a realist and the other one is an illusionist. So there's 4 different archetypes which encompass all the 14 ego tricks. So basically you're discovering what behaviors do you predominantly use so that you can start to get acutely aware of your behavior and your egoic behavior, so that you can discern between the duality of discernment, right? The two variations that we're either coming through ego or essence. And one of the most powerful ways to do that is to understand ourselves and our behavior. So that's the egoic archetype. So quiz.bravemasters.com. And also, if you want all kinds of free resources, meditations, master classes will be uploaded, different higher self activations. I actually have an app. It's called the Brave You app. So if you go to the Apple App Store, right, and you type in Brave You, the letter U, you can gain free access to that. And that is a fantastic resource where everything's all in one place. And so that's an option. And I will also type those links in here. You can go to braveyouapp.bravemasters.com. That'll make it easier for you to find it in the App Store on the Apple products. And you can just go to braveyou.bravemasters.com on the desktop if you have an Android. So right now I don't have Android activated. That should be forthcoming, but you can access it on your laptop, etc. So, all right. So all of that is in completion. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for your attendance. And I love hearing what you are experiencing and what your activations were. And I can't wait until we see each other again. Thank you again for everything. And I will let you go. And I hope and wish a beautiful day upon you. And I will see you soon. Thank you so much. Love you guys.